Hello everybody. In this video I want to do the introduction about Vue Router. Router is a way that we can actually handle different sections, different pages inside a Vue.js application. But before we actually continue, we need to remember a couple of concepts here. Vue.js is usually a single page application. What that means is that we have only one HTML page, and we're injecting JavaScript code that pretty much do all the look and feel, all the elements that are going to be rendered in the browser, and those are going to be injected through JavaScript. Now, usually in a traditional application, a traditional HTML app or website, what we have is different HTML pages, and each one of those HTML pages actually render a new different page. That's the way it's mentioned, right? And we can actually, we have an index, for example. The index gets rendered right away. We don't need to specify the name usually, and we can have, I don't know, something like portfolio, contact form, about us, stuff like that, right? And each one of those routes, we call it route. Every element is a different file that's going to be rendered. In a single page application, we have only one HTML and a bunch of JavaScript code injected to the browser. That JavaScript code will do the switching about the content, and that way we can actually have that same dynamic about moving between pages, one side to another, but without having that refresh or that post request that we usually have in the browser, or that little loading state. So I want to introduce that concept. I don't want to go that deep in this video about the Vue router, but I just want to understand a little bit what we need to be doing over there. So let's actually get started. As you can see right now, what I have here, I have a traditional Vite application. It looked like, actually it pronounced Vite. I just found out in the documentation. So we have a simple Vite application. This was created with a simple npm init the Vite app, the same way that we've been doing in the past. And I didn't change anything at all. So we have the traditional logo, we have the title here, and we have those links, that counter. Everything is pretty much the same. So in order to understand what is actually happening here, or what it's actually doing, we need to see, we need to remember how our application is structured. So we have an index.html, and the only HTML, files that we have here. In there, we have the traditional information, and we have a div inside the body with ID app. That means that the main JavaScript file, that is actually this one, is the one who import Vue and mount the application in the app folder, in the app ID. So that's where actually we're going to be doing that kind of information. So before we continue, let me just create my, I always forget to do this, tsconfig, or just config, better, just to get rid of that little error message that we saw there. And I will just copy this one from here. And in the route, I just will create new file, just config, oops, sorry, config.json, and we paste that information right there. If it works, if not, let me just copy over that again. It's actually not doing it. Oh, okay, it looks like I don't remember how to copy and paste anymore. There you go. So do that over there, and that's it. That's pretty much the applications that we have, and the traditional one. In here we mount the application that came from the application.vue, and that view at the same time imports a hello world component from the components area. As simple as that. So what I'm going to do right now, let me just delete. Let's do a little bit of cleanup. So let's remove the components. Let's change this to a simple h1. Call it hello there. You know that I like that. We need to remove this from here. We don't need it anymore. We don't need the styling. And let me get rid of that. And let's keep it like that. Let's keep it really, really simple. Let me go to my assets and delete the log. So I just straight down everything here. So this code, this hello there, it gets injected through the main JavaScript file to my index.html in the ID app, in the div of ID app. So that means that this is a single page application. We only have one index.html and everything goes rendered right there. So let's start working with that information. So we're going to be using Vue Router, and it's really important. We're going to use, by the moment that I record this video, we're going to be using version 4, and this is located with the next.router.vuejs.com.org, sorry, and that's the official router for Vue.js. In this router, what we need to be doing is it's going to be handling those different links the way that we actually need it through the application. So something that is really, really important is just to remember what we need to be doing over there. So let me just change this settings a little bit. There you go. Sorry. And let's start looking at the documentation. So let's click Get Started and let's go to installation. So the way to install it is with a simple npm install Vue Router at 4. Let's open my terminal. Let's wait this for load, and then we will paste it and execute. So we have the router installed. Now that we have the router installed, we need to actually get started to see what we need to be doing in a Vue app. So this is the way that it works. It works through two different elements. One is going to be the router link. It defines those components over here, and the other one is called router view. Router link is like traditional a reference, but to a viewer, to another component, another element, and the router view is what the information is going to be rendered on top of that. So what we're doing over here, and what the example tells us, we have two different links that have the router link component, and this is important because we need to remember that we are not posting, we are not refreshing the page, and I will show you that in a minute. One to go to the home directory, another go to the about page, and those actually get rendered in the different elements. So let's start working on those. So in order to get started, in my source directory, I will create a new router.javascript, and in here what we need to do, we need to actually import the create router. Create router is going to be the one that's going to be using through the app. So we're going to be import create router from your router. And now that we import that, what we just need to do is do a const router equal create router, and in there we need to send some kind of information in order to specify it. And actually this needs to be export const that router, right? In here we need to specify the history mode. History mode is just a way to actually be able to do back and forward inside the app. So we just need to enable it pretty much. And in here we need to import create web history mode, is the way they're actually working. So we just need to import that. Create memory history, no, sorry. Create web history. And in here, and it will make sense in a little bit. We just go history, create web history, because we already imported, and we need to send a different route. Those routes need to be defined first. and those routes are actually going to be an array. On this array, we just need to specify different elements. What I'm going to be doing now is going to create a new folder called Vue. We can call it like that. And in here, let's create a new file called from.vue and a second one called out.vue. And it's going to be a simple, this is going to be the about page. And really similar, let's copy this to the home and paste it. This is going to be the home page. So we have two different views, and they're going to be working as a different pages, but without actually getting away from that index.html file, and I will show you that. So after having those, we just need to import those ones from here. Let's do import from, and let's say from views from view, and import about from, let's actually do from my views about view. So now that I import those components in, I can define my route, something similar, that actually we can now copy this exactly the way that it is. So what we're saying here is we're saying when the path is the root, we're going to select the home view, and when we're going to /about, we're going to open the about page. That's pretty much what we're telling there. And we are sending that route over here in a component, and we exported the router. So simple as that. So with this little information, we can actually now have that kind of moving between applications. So let me show you how this actually works. Let me go to my main JavaScript, because now we need to import the router inside our Vue app. The way to use it, or the way to create it, we need to separate this line just a little bit. We're going to do my application is going to be a create app. And then in the application, we're going to put something in the middle. It's going to be use something. This something is going to be import router from router. And we are sticking the router inside the application before we create it. And now that we just put those here, we can actually do application mounted in the ID path. So what we're doing here, instead of creating and mounting the application right away, we created, we inserted some kind of middleware or something that's going to be used, and then we just insert that application. And with that little lines, you can actually start using the route. But before we actually show them, we actually, instead of having in my application here, and let's see this, we still see that hello there now. Why? Because we are not rendering the view. In order to render the view, we need to remember, we need to remember what view does for us. So that router creates something called router view, and let me close it. Sorry. This will tell the application that needs to run a specific page depending where it's located. So now, because we are located in the home view, we're supposed to be rendering that file. We save from our main JavaScript that is not saved, and we refresh the app, and this should be working. Somehow it's not. Let's verify what is happening here. Let me cancel this. Let me just run it again, just in case. And let's inspect the element to see if we have an issue. Import not found default. Oh, import not found default is a simple basic issue that we have in our code right here. Sorry, have a different. Okay. So router is actually imported to here because it's not a default. There you go. So now we can see that when we are here, we actually render home page. That is this one. But if I go to /about, I'm rendering the about page. So now our component that's getting loaded over here, it just gets rendered depending the view that we are specifying in the router. So we're saying in the root, it's going to render the home. In the /about, it's going to render the about. And that's why we actually have those working right here. Let's go to about, and let's go to the root. So the different elements that are going to be rendered. Pretty neat. So let's now create those router links that actually send us through there. So we need to remember that actually happened inside the router view. That means that we can actually have something different here. We can have like a navbar, for example, and this navbar we can do a router link, and we can specify this one goes to here. And let's call it home. And let's create a second one right here. Oops. This was going to be called about, and let's go to /about, and let's save this. It's actually rendered. Let me put extra space and a little pipe in there. Let me save it. Okay, now we have that separation. That means that now we can have the home page and the about, and those get rendered. Something really important is that we don't have a flickering here. So let me copy this over, and let's change this to traditional links. And step 2 should be the edge reference. And let's save those. Didn't like it. Oh. There you go. So the first one are router links. We can see that actually go and show it right away. Let me clear this error. There you go. And we can move forward one another. But this one, look at what happened here. You see how the page flickering and we have a little loading state? Because this what it does is just make a call to the server. So a traditional link is what it's actually doing. The really cool thing about the router link is we are not doing down call. If we go to the network tab, we can actually see that the traditional links make an extra calls and start downloading information. Meanwhile, this one is not doing anything in the network because everything is already loaded to the browser. Now there is a way to have lazy loading. That means just load a specific route whenever we need it, but it's something that we are not going to touch in this video. So as you can see now, let me delete those references, we don't need it anymore. We have a simple application that get rendered in different sites. Now, what about going to somewhere else? I don't know, something like that. This is still rendering because we are rendering those in the application view. So this is going to be rendered no matter where we are. But the router view somewhere else doesn't exist in my route. So because in the route doesn't exist that element, we can actually create it if we need it. Or we can catch it, and it's something pretty neat. So we can create a new element. Let's call this 44.view. And let's call a simple template. And let's be really simple. Not found. And what we can do in the router is when we have a different path. And I believe this path could be something like this, like any path, or like cache the rest. We just do component not found. Of course, that component needs to be imported. Import not found from my views 404. And I believe this is actually not working. Okay, probably I don't have it the way that it's supposed to be. So let's go here to dynamic route matching. And it's something that's going to be a little more when we need to send different patterns. But catch all, there you go, 404. And we need to send something like, yeah, this is what we did. This should be working the way that it's supposed to. Like cache the rest. Separated by we are matching empty. We can use custom param by adding the Redis application. But let's see that. Let's refresh. We have an issue here. Okay, it's a custom regex. Let's see what we need to have. We actually need to specify like this. Path match is the name of the parameter. Going to not found. Path match not found. Let's see if this actually did work. Let's put this one right here. I'm doing a mess, sorry for that. I'm having a new keyboard, I don't know you get used yet to that. So let me just copy this over, let me paste it, and let's see if this actually works. So let's start with that. Oh, so let's start with this one. There you go. So we have the home, we have the about, and whenever we go to some place that it doesn't exist, you're gonna render with that one. If we change that one to another one, you just render the same one. So this route path match is a regex expression, and we're pretty much catching everything with this. Sorry, Vue Router 3 don't have a different syntax. So Vue Router 4 is actually a new one. So we need to put the path match to everything. With that match to everything, we just need to render a not found. And that is a simple way to have a 404 not found page in our application. We can actually go to here and we create another router link to home. Now we can say home. And we can put whatever we need in that specific route. So over here, send us back to home. We have the about, we have the home page. It could be like the navbar, and that's going to stay, it doesn't matter what we are. And if we hit something that doesn't exist, that will get rendered, including the router link. So this is the basic information about the Vue router. I know that we didn't win that deep, but it should be enough to start working with the next project that I want to do. So meanwhile, I hope that you like it. Any question or any doubt, don't hesitate to reach me. Happy coding, everybody.